Hey everybody, we are here in Minnesota. I'm visiting with Jan Markell, who lives in the frozen tundra, as you can see behind me. This is definitely not California, and I'm not used to this weather. But anyway, we're coming out here to do Thursday night with Jan at Mark Henry's church, Revive Church. And we're going to be talking about the deep state and the opposition Trump's going to get. But what I wanted to do in this update is update you on my take on the hostage release and the ceasefire that's going on in Israel. As you recall, Trump, and we call this the Trump effect, who told Hamas and told basically the Middle East and put them on notice saying, if the hostages are not released by the time he comes in to presidency, then all hell will break loose. And the Middle East respects that. The Muslim world understands that Trump's the type of guy that will take them out. He did that with Soleimani, with a drone, and so he puts people on notice. And we're very happy that Trump's in office, because Biden, they weren't afraid of Biden, they weren't afraid of the United States because they knew Biden wasn't going to do anything. But now with Trump in office, they know this guy is a player, and he scares them. And so Hamas is now doing a deal with Israel. And again, this is what we call a Trump effect. But I wanted to explore the deal a little bit and let you know that this deal, even though it's great that the hostages are going to be released, and they're going to be released in 3 phases, and I'll talk about that, it's not the greatest deal you could possibly get. And I want to explain a little bit what it does. First off, let's talk about the hostages. There's I think 101 hostages still left, I think, and we don't know if some of them are dead. We think a certain portion of them are dead. But anyway, they plan to release the hostages in 3 stages. And the first stage is, the elderly, women, children, and they're going to be released. But the deal that Israel had to make is that in order to get these hostages released, this first wave of hostages, Israel had to give up 1,000 of its prisoners from Gaza who are nothing more than terrorists. So yes, Israel had to give up 1,000 terrorists that they had in their Israeli prisons in order for these hostages to be released. Well, that's unacceptable. That's crazy. So we're going to allow 1,000 terrorists to go back into Gaza. And what do terrorists do that want to commit Islamic jihad? They want to go right back and do exactly what they have always been doing. And look, I've been on the ground in Israel. We've talked to the Israeli soldiers, and they tell us stories like, they went and helped a Hamas terrorist, and they took him to a hospital, and they bandaged him up, fixed his broken leg or whatnot. And then they asked the terrorist, after they went to an Israeli hospital and got fixed up, do you still want to kill us? And the terrorist said, absolutely, I still want to kill you, because that's the mindset you're dealing with. And so you released 1,000 terrorists back into Gaza, you've got the same problem. You're releasing terrorists that want to kill Jews. That's unacceptable. The second thing then is on the hostage release, since it's in 3 phases, is Israel doesn't know what they're going to get or what Hamas will demand on the second release or the 3rd release. They could ask for another 1,000 prisoners or another 3,000, who knows? But in order to get these other hostages, Israel has to condescend to give Hamas kind of what they want, which that's not a good deal at all for Israel to release more terrorists. So that's the raw end of the deal partly of it. And look, Netanyahu is under the pressure of the leftists in Israel and a lot of the family members that continue to protest in Tel Aviv, in Hostage Square there in Tel Aviv, and they've put pressure on to do any deal possible to get the hostages back. Well, again, that's coming from a leftist mindset. The end justifies the means. And most of us that look at this from a biblical standpoint saying, that's not a deal at all. Release the hostages and then we release more terrorists. I don't know. I don't agree with that. The second thing you have to think about in this deal is that Israel is supposed to withdraw from the area of Gaza. Well, that's insane. And as you and I have been watching this drama play out for 15 months, one of the problems with the generals have been doing, the generals are leftists, by the way, in Israel. They're just like Mark Milley in the United States, right? And what they have been doing, the IDF is extremely frustrated about this. And we talk to the soldiers in Israel, and they're frustrated with the generals. The generals then will send the Israeli soldiers in, they'll clear out an area, and then not keep it, and they just move off of it. And then what ends up happening is the terrorists come back and booby trap the area again. So Israel has to go back and clear it out again. It's so stupid, and the soldiers are totally frustrated about this. And so they go and take an area, withdraw according to what the generals want, which is just mind-blowing that these generals would do it. But I guess that's the leftist mindset. If you and I were running a military, we would take an area and hold the area. We don't give it up and clear it out and then let's let it go back. I think about what Jesus said about demons. He says, you go in and you clean the house of one demon, right? And you sweep the house clean, but if you don't fill the house, what happens? 7 demons come back. I mean, that's the principle the Lord gave about demons, right? And he was talking about Israel in that respect. But Israel's generals doing the same thing. They go in there, sweep the house clean, leave it, and 7 more demons come back and booby trap it for the IDF soldiers. It's insane. A lot of these generals need to be fired in the IDF, and the IDF soldiers would agree with that. But part of this hostage deal is to withdraw Israeli forces. Well, if you withdraw, guess what Hamas gets to do? Reclaim the area, like we've seen with the last 15 months. That's insane. I would have never brokered a deal like that. So that's a problem. The third problem is Israel is to allow Egypt to continue to give more supplies to Hamas. Now, here's the thing. The United States and Israel has been supplying food and medical and all kinds of things to the Gazans. In fact, they've set up a camp outside there where they feed and give all the things that the Gazan civilians need, if there is such a thing as a Gaza civilian. And there's debate on that. I don't really think there's a lot of Gazan civilians anyway. They all overwhelmingly, the majority supported what Hamas did to Israel. So that's debatable. But according to our IDF soldiers, they say there is no civilians. That's according to our IDF soldiers that we have talked to on the ground that has been in Gaza. And I think I'm going to believe the IDF soldiers over what I hear from the media. So anyway, United States and Israel have been abundantly supplying food and water, 450 trucks a week, okay? So all of a sudden, part of this deal, they're going to allow Egypt to supply them. Now, here's what you have to understand about what's going on with the supplies. Hamas is the one who gets the supplies. And then Hamas takes that, they give it to themselves, then they give it to their foot soldiers, and then they give it to their supporters, and then once that's done, they sell the rest on the black market, and they make money. And that money continues their terroristic operations. And that's what's been going on for the last 15 months with the US supplies and even with the Israeli supplies. So now we're going to add more supplies to Hamas so that they can give the supplies to themselves, give it to the supporters, and then sell it on the black market. It's insane. It's stupid. And that's what's been going on. But you're not going to hear that in the media. So that's the problem with this hostage deal. And Netanyahu was under a lot of pressure, no doubt about that. And a lot of the leftists were putting pressure on him. A lot of the families in Israel were putting pressure on him to make this type of deal. But it's a raw deal. Are we happy the hostage get released? Yeah, but we still don't know the second and third phases of what Hamas will demand. So what should happen? What should happen is this. Hamas is ordered by the United States or Israel to release all hostages, and like Donald Trump said, all hell will break loose. We will eliminate every one of you. And basically what needs to happen is Hamas needs to be eliminated off the face of the planet, along with Hezbollah, along with any terrorist organization like the Houthis or anyone else. And so ultimately, you can't sit down and let Gaza go back to Hamas, because if it goes back to Hamas and Israel withdraws, then we're back to status quo. We're back to things that were like in the Gaza before October 7th, with Hamas running the show, terrorist organizations, bombings, all kinds of stuff, rockets being fired, that whole mess. And it's like, all of this was for that? That's where we end up, where we started? That's unacceptable, and Israel should not accept it, and I hope they don't. But I hope things change, but unfortunately, this ceasefire hostage deal is a raw deal for Israel. Are we happy the hostages come back? Yes, but look what Israel has to do, and I think that's unacceptable. You can't give Gaza back to Hamas. Hamas has to be eliminated off this planet, and that's it. That's how it has to be. So anyway, we're going to see how this unfolds. What this does prophetically, it continues to set the stage for the Psalm 83 war. It continues to set the stage for Gog of Magog, because if you look up in the north, what's going on in the north, you've got ISIS basically taking over Syria after Bashar Assad is gone, Al-Qaeda leftovers taking over, and who's behind them? Turkey, Erdogan. And Erdogan wants to establish the Ottoman Empire and reclaim Jerusalem. They always want to reclaim Jerusalem, like as if it's theirs and not Jewish. So anyway, all of this is a stair step to those eventual predicted wars in the Bible, and eventually Israel cutting a deal with the Antichrist. So we'll keep our eyes on it, but this hostage deal is a raw deal. Anyway, God bless you. Stay tuned. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share as much as possible. Get this information out to your friends, your neighbors, and remember what the Lord said. When you see these things begin to happen, look up, lift up your heads, for your redemption draws near. God bless you. We'll see you next time.